How did it feel? You were more and more being elevated to a higher rank and higher rank, but that was also taking you away from what you really loved, and that was fine.
That's true, but there's a saying, you can fly airplanes for your entire career, but you'll never make a star. If you want to make a star, you have to have a variety of things. So at the point I decided I was really going to try and make a star, then I had to accept some of these administrative positions as opposed to tactical and combat positions. One of my best assignments was as a bird colonel down at Cherry Point, North Carolina, flying the Harrier aircraft. That's the vertical takeoff and landing airplane. Absolutely enjoying myself when I got one of those backdoor messages. Frank, would you consider coming to headquarters and being the executive assistant to the assistant commandant? I said, oh, another one of those crossroads. You got to know when to take them. Mm-hmm. I said, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I wound up in Washington as the number one guy to the number two guy in the Marine Corps. And obviously that was a step towards the grooming process, knowing full well that the first black general would cause some controversy in the Marine Corps, and that there needed to be awareness on their side as well as on my side, and quite obviously to dilute that impact. For the first time, the year before I was selected to be general, a woman, for the first time in the history of the Marine Corps, was elected to be general. Coincidence?
Interesting timing. Yes, interesting timing. How did you feel about the reality that you were in fact being groomed? I mean, I would think that that's a kind of good news and bad news. You know?
It is, because it's sort of your final test. If you flunk it, you're through. But at the same time, it does. You do realize, of course, that you're a contender. Your peers realize that you are a contender. And it's a position where you keep your mouth shut, your eyes open, and absorb as much as you can, because you're seeing the inner workings of the real power in it's Marine Corps, Army, whatever. So you're close to the throne, and it's a pretty good learning experience. But yeah, I knew.
And what did it mean to you, the possibility that this was going to happen?
Historically, I knew it would be significant. I knew that it would be viewed throughout the Corps as a breakthrough, and some of the other services as well, because quite frankly, the Marine Corps was the last service to have a black general. The Marine Corps was the last service to accept blacks.
Why?
The Truman Edict, which came out in '48, did eliminate most of it, but during World War II, in the early 1940s, there were no black Marines until such time as the president and others felt that blacks should serve in the Marine Corps. And they were trained at a place down in North Carolina, Montford Point. They've now formed an organization called the Montford Point Marines. But during the World War II era, these black troops were used as longshoremen, as stewards, as laborers, not as war fighters. And I've got a couple of books here that was the entry of blacks into the Marine Corps, and that would have been around 1943.
And the resistance in the Marine Corps continued. Mm-hmm. Why was the Marine Corps so much more adamant than some of the other services?
I think the Marine Corps and the Navy were hand in hand. I think that primarily the Marine Corps grew up in terms of Southern officer leadership. Most of the senior officers were from the South. I think that they had a very, very proud record in the sense of performance, and that then led to an even stronger record in terms of exclusion of minorities. Let's just look at it this way. In 1943 to, let's say, 1963, that's 20 years, and junior officers in the 43 era had then risen to senior officer rank in the mid-60 era, and in some of those continued on even for the next decade. So there was a lot to overcome in the sense of the mindset of the the few, the proud, the Marines, but to make it all inclusive, took a lot of hard work.